You are trained from the first day to believe that battles announce themselves. Artillery prepares the ground. Radios crackle with orders. Engines roar. Even in the dark, war is loud. Noise is how armies coordinate. Noise is how commanders control chaos. Silence, by contrast, is what happens between battles, never during them. That belief is not cultural. It is institutional. Every modern army in the 1940s is built around communication by sound. Field telephones, Morse key radios, whistles, shouted commands. When the shooting starts, silence dies first. Now picture this. It is September 1943. You are standing on the edge of enemy territory, less than 100 meters from armed guards. The air smells of oil and warm metal. Somewhere ahead, ships displace water with slow, heavy certainty. Each one is worth more than the lives of the men standing beside you. You do not whisper. You do not signal. You do not speak at all. There will be no artillery, no supporting fire, no radio contact. If something goes wrong, no one will know. If you die, you will die unheard. Every military instinct says this is madness. Yet the men beside you have trained for this exact moment. They know the rule that modern combat cannot function without sound, and they are about to break it completely. Because in 1943, one officer concluded that noise itself had become the enemy. And in a single operation conducted in absolute silence, he proved that surprise did not come from speed or firepower, but from the absence of both. Major Ivan Lyon is 35 years old when the idea takes hold. He is not a conventional officer. He does not command divisions or plan sweeping offensives. He is a precision instrument, trained in small unit warfare, demolition, and deep infiltration. His unit is experimental, barely acknowledged on paper, and officially deniable. He belongs to what will later be known as Z Special Unit, a composite force built from Australian and British commandos, trained for operations so risky that conventional doctrine cannot support them. By mid-1943, the strategic problem confronting the Allies in Southeast Asia is clear. Japanese naval logistics are sustaining operations across thousands of miles of ocean. Singapore, captured in 1942, has become a fortified hub, a repair yard, a supply depot, and a psychological symbol of Allied defeat. Merchant ships enter and leave its harbor daily, largely unmolested. Bombing raids are ineffective. The harbor is defended. Aircraft losses are high. Submarine operations near the port are limited by shallow waters and patrol density. The rule says you need force to strike a port like Singapore. Lyon disagrees. He studies harbor traffic patterns, guard routines, mooring configurations. He learns that Japanese defenses are oriented outward toward air and sea threats. Patrols watch the horizon, not the shadows between hulls. And then he reaches a conclusion that seems almost reckless. What if the attack does not arrive? What if it is already there? The operation he designs does not rely on shock. It relies on invisibility. The assault force will not fight its way in. It will slip in, carried by currents, hidden by darkness, unremarkable in silhouette. And once inside the harbor, silence becomes law. No radios because transmissions can be detected. No gunfire because sound carries across water. No explosives until the very last moment. Every man will move, signal, and kill without making noise. Because if even one guard shouts, the operation collapses. The stakes are not just tactical. Success would prove that heavily defended ports are vulnerable to the smallest units imaginable. Failure would erase the men involved from official memory entirely. As the final rehearsals end, Lyon understands the truth. This will not be a battle in the traditional sense. It will be a test of discipline against fear. And once they launch, there will be no way to call it off. You train for weeks without ever firing a weapon. That alone feels wrong. On the beaches of Australia's northern coast, Lyon puts his men through repetition bordering on obsession. Every movement is stripped down to essentials. Hands replace voices. Touch replaces commands. A squeeze on the shoulder means halt. 2 taps mean advance. A clenched fist means disappear into cover. There are no shouted corrections. If you make noise, training stops. The craft you rehearse with are collapsible canoes, fall boats, canvas stretched over light frames. They are unstable, slow, and unforgiving. Loaded with explosives, they sit low in the water. Any sudden movement risks capsizing. You learn to paddle without splash, to breathe through your nose, to let currents do the work whenever possible. Weapons are secondary. Each man carries a knife, a suppressed pistol for emergencies only, and limpet mines fitted with timed detonators. The real weapon is patience. Lion insists on one rule above all others. If compromised, you do not fight your way out. You vanish or you die. By August 1943, the operational plan is set. A converted fishing vessel, the Krite, will carry the team thousands of miles through enemy-controlled waters, disguised as a local craft. From there, the men will paddle into Singapore Harbor under cover of darkness. Not one signal will be sent once they leave the ship. No artillery will soften defenses. No diversion will draw attention away. No extraction force will wait offshore. This is not an assault. It is infiltration taken to its logical extreme. And now, with the coastline behind you and the open sea ahead, the reality becomes unavoidable. Everything depends on silence holding. You launch just after nightfall. The sea is calm, which helps and terrifies you. Calm water reflects sound. Every paddle stroke feels too loud. Every drip from the blade sounds like a gunshot in your head. There are 14 men in total, 7 canoes. Each pair moves as one organism. No talking. No looking around unnecessarily. Eyes forward, count strokes. Match breathing, you paddle for hours, 5 miles, 8 miles, 12 miles. Your shoulders burn, but you cannot adjust your grip too abruptly. You learn that pain is quieter than panic. Ahead, the harbor emerges as a darker mass against the night sky. You can smell it now: fuel oil, rust, stagnant water. Lights from the city glow faintly behind blackout measures. Somewhere, engines idle. Chains clink softly against steel hulls. Enemy territory begins not at the shoreline, but at the first anchored ship. You wait, minutes stretch. Guards patrol along decks above you, silhouettes moving against dim bulbs. Their footsteps are audible. Their voices are not. That is good. That means they are relaxed. Lion signals, you advance. The canoes drift between anchored vessels, each one displacing thousands of tons. The scale difference is absurd. You feel like an insect crawling through a forest of steel. 10 yards, 8 yards, 5. A Japanese sentry leans over a railing. Something splashes nearby. Your heart rate spikes. You freeze mid-stroke, paddle suspended just above the water, arms trembling. The sentry lights a cigarette. Smoke drifts downward. He turns away. You move again. This is how the night progresses, not in dramatic bursts, but in suspended moments where everything depends on restraint. You pass beneath hull shadows where light cannot reach. You memorize anchor chains as landmarks. The first target is a large merchant vessel over 7,000 tons. You secure the canoe to its hull with minimal contact. One man holds position. The other slips into the water, feeling along the steel until he finds a flat surface below the waterline. The limpet mine clicks softly as it locks into place. You set the timer, 60 minutes. No sound, no bubbles, no wasted movement. You push off and disappear. The second ship, then the third. Each placement increases the risk. Each minute inside the harbor tightens the margin. Somewhere, a guard could look down at the wrong angle. A patrol boat could idle too close. At one point, a searchlight sweeps across the water. You stop breathing. The beam passes. It does not linger. Half the mines are placed. Then something goes wrong. A canoe scrapes metal just slightly, but enough. You feel it more than hear it. The vibration travels through the frame and into your bones. Above you, footsteps stop. A voice calls out, sharp, questioning. Seconds pass. If the alarm sounds now, there is no contingency. The harbor will erupt, floodlights, gunfire, depth charges, lion signals hold. You do nothing. The sentry laughs. Another voice answers. The footsteps resume. Only then do you realize your jaw is clenched so hard it hurts. You continue. By the time the last mine is set, the first timers are approaching zero. You paddle for the harbor mouth, staying close to shadows, letting currents pull you where possible. Your arms are numb now. Your body feels detached, functioning on training alone. Then behind you, the water erupts. A deep, concussive thud rolls through the harbor. Another follows, then another. Steel tears, fire blooms, shockwaves ripple across the surface. Japanese searchlights snap on, sirens wail, engines roar to life, and you are already gone. You do not look back. That is the discipline. Curiosity kills more men than bullets. The explosions behind you are no longer part of the mission. They are proof that the mission has already succeeded or failed beyond repair. You paddle, not fast. Fast makes noise. You paddle clean. Behind you, Singapore Harbor collapses into chaos. Searchlights slice across the water in frantic arcs. Patrol boats accelerate without coordination, wakes overlapping, engines throttled too hard. Orders are shouted now, sharp and panicked, bouncing off steel hulls and concrete keys. But the noise works against them. Every sound they make masks you. You slip past a patrol boat at less than 40 yards. Its crew scans the wrong direction, eyes pulled toward fire and smoke. They are hunting attackers who do not exist anymore because you were never meant to fight. You were meant to vanish. By dawn, you reach the rendezvous shoreline. The men haul the canoes out of the water and dismantle them in silence. Canvas folded, frames broken down. Every trace buried or burned. There will be no debris washing ashore, no clues for daylight patrols. Only then do you rest. Only then does the shaking start. By the time Japanese commanders assemble a coherent picture, it is too late. 7 ships lie damaged or sinking. Over 39,000 tons of shipping neutralized. Fuel spills coat the harbor surface. Repairs will take months, traffic halts, convoys divert, and no one understands how it happened. There were no incoming aircraft, no radar contacts, no submarine sightings. The defenders cannot explain it because their entire defensive logic assumes noise precedes attack. They are wrong. Now the most dangerous phase begins, extraction. You split into small groups, moving inland through mangrove swamps and jungle, avoiding roads and villages. You live on rationed rice and whatever water you can purify. Malaria mosquitoes swarm at dusk. Leeches cling to your legs. Infection is a constant threat. Japanese patrols fan out aggressively now. Roadblocks appear. Villages are searched. The harbor attack has humiliated the command, and humiliation sharpens cruelty. You move at night, hide during the day. One group makes it back to the coast and escapes by boat. Another is not so lucky. Captured commandos are interrogated, then executed. Their names will not appear in newspapers. Their families will not receive details. Silence follows them even in death. Lyon knows this risk when he designs the operation. He accepts it anyway. Because the objective was never individual survival. It was proof. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage, discipline, and ingenuity deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help ensure they aren't forgotten. The true impact of the silent attack does not register immediately. At first, Japanese command treats it as an anomaly. An intelligence failure, perhaps a saboteur ring, maybe an internal security lapse. Investigations focus inward. Guards are disciplined. Patrol schedules are tight. What they do not know is that military planners across the Allied world are studying the operation in detail, because it breaks assumptions. It proves that a defended harbor is not a fortress, it is a system. And systems can be infiltrated if you understand their blind spots. Radar watches the sky. Sonar listens for engines. Patrols scan for movement. None of them listen for nothing. Special operations doctrine shifts quietly. Emphasis moves towards swimmer delivery, timed charges, and denial of detection rather than confrontation. The idea that a handful of men can achieve effects once reserved for air raids begins to take root. The enemy, meanwhile, changes posture. Harbors are lit brighter, patrols double, random checks increase, but the cost is inefficiency. Crews are exhausted, false alarms multiply, every splash becomes suspicious, every shadow a threat. Silence has weaponized paranoia, and once that happens, control erodes. After the war, Major Ivan Lyon does not become famous. There are no victory parades for operations that officially never happened. Reports remain classified for years. Some names are recorded only in unit rosters and casualty lists. But among Special Operations Forces, the lesson endures. Silence is not the absence of action. It is action refined to its purest form. The men who paddled into Singapore Harbor were in their 20s and 30s, clerks, mechanics, students, ordinary men trained to an extraordinary level of restraint. Some returned home, some did not. To this day, no alarms were ever triggered before the explosions. That is the detail that matters, because it means the defenders never had a chance to respond. And that is what true surprise looks like. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on that mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Major Ivan Lyon and the men of Z Special Unit do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.